It feels like in the blink of an eye we went from 3D platformers being considered a dead genre outside of Mario to all of a sudden these things are everywhere and they're all amazing. Even though it was the highest reviewed game of 2024, I think some people were still a little bit shocked that Astro Bot was able to win Game of the Year just because it doesn't fit the classic archetype for that award historically as this moderately scaled classic 3D platformer experience. It seems like the award usually goes to whatever high fidelity $600 billion budget 150-hour RPG didn't crash immediately on launch that year, or a serious cinematic experience, or Overwatch that one time. But even as recently as 2021, there was another slightly surprising winner of Game of the Year in It Takes Two, and that also was primarily a 3D platformer. That's 2 out of 5 Game of the Years in this young decade that are platformer games, which admittedly is a small sample size, but I really think it means something. Mainly that there's room for this genre to garner critical acclaim and interest from broader audiences alongside what's considered the modern cutting-edge AAA gaming experience. In fact, I feel like both of these games have proved that this genre can actually be just as technically impressive as those flagship experiences in its own way. One of my favorite things about a lot of modern 3D platformers is that they've all gotten on the same page about variety and transformative gameplay from level to level, which is something that for decades it felt like only the Mario franchise really understood how to do well. Because at its basic level, platforming is all about running and jumping, which is something that's in like 99% of games ever now, and precision platforming has never been nearly as fun in the 3D space as it is in 2D, so for a modern 3D platformer to be fun, it can't just be this stripped down, peppy, colorful experience. It needs to have a laundry list of transformative tools that make it feel like even though you are primarily running and jumping, you're still somehow never doing the same thing for that long. And when you really think about it, that is a very tall order. For some of the best 3D platformers out there, no 15 to 30 minute segment overlaps entirely with the next 15 to 30 minute segment. Not just in like location or what characters you come across, but from a fundamental gameplay point of view, which means you often don't expect what's coming next. And rotating through a bunch of things that quickly is one thing, but making it fun to engage with is another. You essentially have to make multiple enjoyable experiences in one package, and that's not easy at all. I still think Nintendo remains on the cutting edge on that front, with Mario Odyssey coming out 7 years ago and featuring some of the most seamless and dynamically changing levels I've ever seen, on top of the ability to transform into anything you can throw your hat on, which is genuinely such impressive tech that the game never lingers on. I mean, like, I know it was the whole marketing campaign for the thing, but when you're actually playing the game, you flip in and out of that mode so casually, and sometimes it's like a one-time thing. They develop an entire character movement mechanic and you never use it again. You can even play through the whole game and not even realize some of these are in here, and it almost feels like a waste of time to make, but the sheer confidence it gives off and the deeper appreciation that dedicated players will have is what makes it so far ahead of the curve. More recently, Kirby and the Forgotten Land also benefited from a similar gimmick to Mario Odyssey with these quick, unique transformations and power-ups, and some of Astro Bot's best levels are ones where you get to mess around with a mechanic that probably took months and months to put together and design a level around, and then it just straight up never shows up again. And that's not even mentioning the end of world levels, which completely changed the gameplay loop for a period of time. Another one of my favorite platformers that does this is A Hat in Time. The levels here are a little bit longer and the mechanics don't go by quite as quickly, but each of them feels like a sequel or spin-off to the core idea. My favorite one is this Orient Express train murder mystery thing, which isn't even that mechanically deep, it's just amazing for how different it feels to every other segment, and that's true for a lot of stuff in here. All of Psychonauts 2's levels are themed around different people's brains and whatever twisted or strange personalities they have, so even the layout of the platforms and how structures are shaped will change depending on whose brain you're in, and It Takes Two is, in my opinion, the most impressive version of this, because not only does it give you these entirely different gameplay segments, including complete subversions in a top-down dungeon crawler and a Street Fighter homage, but it does so while giving both players two uniquely different things to do at any one time, and it looks like their upcoming game Split Fiction is going to be even more balls to the wall with that idea. Something a little bit more stripped back like Crash Bandicoot 4 still introduces a ton of new enjoyable gimmicks as the game goes along, and it also proved that this sort of restricted camera, 3D, 2D hybrid style of platformer is still totally viable in the modern day, and even the most recent Sackboy game I had a lot of fun with, although both of these games did struggle sales-wise despite being pretty killer, especially Crash 4, which is sort of a bummer. But in the wake of those two former powerhouses, we're seeing a lot of indie games start to do cool things in this space as well. Penny's Big Breakaway has a really unique and engaging combo system that puts a lot of focus on conservation of momentum. Blue Fire has this minimal art style with a big emphasis on wall running and chaining different movement options together, although I will admit I haven't played this one because I'm not the biggest fan of the art style. And then there are games that completely shatter the idea of what a 3D platformer is supposed to look and play like. Like Neon White is, if you think about it, predominantly a 3D platformer. Its newer, less combat-focused cousin Hell of an Office is even more of one, and I'd even consider a game like Ghost Runner to be one too. They all kind of feel like descendants of Mirror's Edge, which itself I view as an evolution of this basic formula. And games like these, as well as The Pathless and Solar Ash, really do show the versatility of the genre, and while some people might not agree with me that these are 3D platformers, I at least think it's fair to say that they're in the same family of games. One that felt neglected for so long, and then seemingly out of nowhere became bigger and better than ever. It makes me really happy to see how much of a comeback it's had, and I hope that continues. I want to see what a modern Banjo-Kazooie game looks like. I want to see Media Molecule move back into this space, whether it's another Little Big Planet game or a new IP within the genre. And I also want to see developers new and old, indie and AAA, try their hand at doing something creative with it. The fact that almost 30 years after the first ever 3D platformer hit the market, we're still seeing developers iterate on this idea to the point that it can be the best game of a given year is incredible for how simple this concept is at its core, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. Subscribe for more video essay speedruns. If you want to see a video about the Insomniac Spider-Man games, head over to my main channel. I've got a whole hour-long critique over there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.